The following live program reflects the thoughts and opinions of the host, viewers, or any guests on tonight's broadcast, and in no way reflect the thoughts and opinions of any contributors or any sponsors of the Zeke Shoots show. Please have your questions ready, keep the comments civil, and share the video link on social media. Remember to hit that like button and leave a comment. Do you like Zeke Shoots AK builds, but you can't build your own? Not a problem. Just visit the link to Goat Guns in the description below. Each purchase of one of the many finely detailed 100% metal models are so easy to build and enjoy. A 5-year-old can even build one. Visit the link in the description below for more details. Purchase yours now and help Zeke Shoots in the process. Want to help the channel out but also want something to wear on those cold nights at the range? Visit the Zeke Shoots merch store today and grab a sticker or full color poster today. Link in the description below. Would you like to hear your ad here? Email Zeke@ZekeShoots.com for more information.
Hey guys, just want to let you know that Zeke Shoots is still a thing and YouTube has not blocked me so far. One thing I do want to say is if you wonder where I am at, whether it's on UGETube, Gunstreamer, or 1776 TV, Dailymotion, what have you, links are in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube. It depends on where you're at, you're going to be finding the links in the description. Anyway guys, if you want to absolutely, without a doubt, be able to get a hold of me, email me directly, Zeke@ZekeShoots.com. I'm more than happy to talk to my friends and fans on YouTube or wherever you happen to be. Anyway guys, thank you for your continued support. We'll be looking forward to more videos coming from me in the near future.
Consider a donation of $1 today. Just visit patreon.com/Zeke Shoots and enjoy Patreon-only content with your donation.
Sorry about that, guys. Whoops. Nothing like trying to blast my ears out. Anyway, let me get things switched over. I have a very nice presentation, and I'm going to be reading to you guys. So just kind of behave yourselves in the chat, please, because I would like to actually do something with this afterwards. Anyway, guys, without further ado, let's get this show underway. The Kalashnikov rifle has known several variations over its decades of service. Everyone knows the heavy hitter variations such as the Russian AK-47, the AKM, and the AK-74, but very few people know much more about the AK than that. In this series, we will continue to explore the variations of the Kalashnikov that have made the AK the most recognized rifle around the world. Let's get started. As we all know, Poland adopted the Kalashnikov rifle and production began in the sleepy town of Radom. This took place in the tail end of 1957, and this was when they obtained a license from Russia to produce the Type 3 AK-47. This first model was known as the PMK. The PMK was what anyone would know as the sturdy, milled Type 3 AK-47 with a fixed stock. This was a short-lived definition, however. In 1966, the PMK was rebranded to the KBK. Rifles were produced with the standard 16-inch chrome-lined hammer-forged barrel that was screwed in rather than being pressed and pinned. The rear sight leaf was metered to 800 meters, and the Battle Zero was an S. The Polish arsenal marking was an 11 inside an oval, and this represented the factory works 11. This was placed in the typical position on the left-hand side of the receiver, just aft of the lower handguard. Selector markings were C for automatic and P for semi-automatic, and these were on the right side of the rifle. The underfolder version shared the same standard features as the standard version did. However, its designation was known as the PBK or PKMS. These rifles can be seen wearing laminated hardwood furniture, and laminated furniture did come after the hardwood furniture, so just keep in mind that if you see a hardwood furniture, it may not mean anything, but originally hardwood furniture, then laminated furniture. Usually re-arsenaling projects incorporated, or repairs incorporated, the laminated furniture rather than the hardwood furniture. The pistol grips on these rifles can be seen with a checkering. The later versions of these rifles did come with a plastic pistol grip. Now, what is a good AK if you can't launch a grenade off the muzzle? Well, the KBKG, or WZ-1960-72, was another Type 3 AK-47. There was an underfolder variant that never really saw production outside of maybe prototyping, but I digress, it was in some of the training manuals. The muzzle nut had a tapered inside diameter that made it to a tapered muzzle. This made it to where you couldn't use this muzzle nut on a standard AKM because of the inside taper. This was removed to swap the muzzle device that would screw on in place of this muzzle nut. The spring-loaded detent tab has a little paddle on the top of it so that you can depress it when this grenade launcher spigot is installed. This variation has a 10-round magazine that prevents the loading of standard ammunition. Pretty clever, since we don't want to shoot the end of a grenade with a, actual round, at least at this time. Another issue with the launching of these grenades off the front of an AK is that the gas system would overpower the rifle and blow the dust cover off. Well, there was a clever little on-off switch on the gas block, on the right side of the gas block, that could shut the gas off, but still it was a pretty violent procedure, so they incorporated a push-down lock on the recoil assembly. The first version of this rifle had a removable buttstock that simply snapped into place. It had the standard tang on the upper and lower part of the receiver, just as any milled Type 3, but there were depressible buttons on the buttstock that allowed you to remove the buttstock. Later versions had a permanently installed stock, typical of any Type 3 AK-47, but both variants featured a metal attachment point on the left and right side of the stock that allowed the attachment of a rubber butt pad. There was even a couple of versions of clip-on grenade sights for these. Polish milled variations were of outstanding quality and can be observed in a blued finish. Gray phosphate versions were indicative of refurbed rifles. However, if you saw some that had laminated furniture and they were older versions, doesn't necessarily mean that they weren't reworked at some point. Just total refurbs got the gray phosphate. There were two DMR, or designated marksman rifle variants, that only saw very limited production, and the optic was mounted on a riser coming off of the rear sight block. The barrel was longer and it didn't have a bipod, and the stocks had a slightly higher comb for better ergonomics when you're using an optic. Maybe a dozen of these or so was made. I can't really find too much more information about that, so we can't really go into it too well. Other variants was the PMK PBS-1. The PBS-1 was a suppressor that did screw onto the end of any AK, but for the sake of designation, Poland wanted to make a special variant of one of these. The serial number on these rifles started with an S, and with the exception of the RPK style rear sight leaf, it was a standard milled Type 3 AK. Milled variants of the Polish Kalashnikov were made all the way from the late 50s until the mid to late 70s. And it was, once the AKM started taking its place in standard infantry service, the AK-47 Type 3 was phased out. Now, one little caveat to that, the grenade launching versions were made up until the late 70s because they were specifically designed for that purpose. The Polish AKM shares many of the same features that its Russian counterpart does. This first AKM fielded by Poland was known as the KBK AKM. In many cases, a look at the 11 in an oval and CP selector markings are the only determining factor in determining the rifle is Polish, as opposed to XYZ variant. Production began in 1972, and the barrels were standard 16-inch length. and were topped off with a slant muzzle brake. Ribbed dust covers became a standard issue item on these rifles, and the push button lock for the recoil guide rod was dropped at this point. 1,000 meter rear sight leaves became a standard feature on the AKM, and the Battle Zero was yet again an S. Lower handguards featured a bulged palm swell that became common on most AK variants from around the world. Or now early production models, I mean absolutely early, probably within the first 3-4 months of production, these rifles were blued and had a hardwood furniture stock set, whereas other versions of the first year of manufacture feature a satin black finish, pistol grips that were made of plastic, and laminated furniture. In late 72, the KBK AKMS came out, and this was probably about the same time as the blued finish stopped, so I couldn't find any evidence of the underfolders being blued as well, so possible that this was the switch over. This was the underfolding version, and it had some of the same features as previously listed with the AKM, with the exception of the reinforcing plate being mounted under the receiver, so it would stabilize the receiver a little bit more if you were shooting it with the stock folded. Production of these two variants and their spin-offs carried on until the end of the Cold War. An N or an L designation indicates the presence of an optic rail. The optic mount on these was a two-part design that was riveted to the left side of the receiver and had a screw-on dovetail plate that would allow the mounting of the NSP-2 or NSP-3 night vision optic. Folding stock versions have a special leg on the left side of the folding stock to allow the optic rail to be bypassed when folding the stock. Now, this does not allow the optic to be bypassed, but it does without the optic. So if the optic is there, you can't fold the stock. Model numbers for the rifles that would have had these optic mounts were as follows. KBK AKM-L, this would be the AKM full stock. The KBK AKM-SL, this is the folder, and this one here would be for the NSP-2 optic. The others were for the NSP-3, and respectively they were the KBK AKM-N, that's the regular AKM, and KBK AKM-N-SN, and that's the folder. A special birdcage flash hider was developed to use in conjunction with these optics, so the rifle could be better effectively used when low light situation presented themselves. Other noteworthy AKM variants were the PMK-M, WZ-74, the KBK AKM-P, and the KBK AK-SP, the Talk 1, the Talk 2, and the WG-GS-4. The PMK-M WZ-74 featured a special lower handguard that would allow the manipulation of an under-the-barrel mounted first-generation laser or the 40mm pallid grenade launcher. The KBK AKM-P and SP are standard AKM and AKM-S rifles with night vision sights attached. Or, not the optic, they're just like glow sights that flip up. Talk 1 and Talk 2s are 22 long rifle training versions. The Talk 1 is the standard AKM, and the Talk 2 is the AKM-S underfolder. Last but not least, we have the WG-GS-4. This was a riot control gun that was not able to chamber live rounds and was essentially a bolt action as it did not have a gas system either. This was in spite of the standard automatic AKM receiver. The use of the underfolder rear trunnion allowed for the back of this thing to be smooth. There were no sights, so you just had to guess where you were shooting, and often these were used at close range, so the use of a sight really wasn't too much of an issue. It featured a foregrip that was just another AK pistol grip that was mounted just underneath the barrel. And, basically there wasn't a lower handguard because that was the pistol grip. There were two variations of the muzzle attachment. One was just a tube that you would put the smoke grenade into, and you would discharge the rifle. These things couldn't take live rounds, so, they were strictly for blanks. And anyway, you would launch out of this grenade tube. Another one actually had like a cone-shaped muzzle, and it shot a net. It's like a Batman toy. But anyway, yeah, it shot a net out of the front of it. Pretty cool. Also, on the left side, there was a clip that was welded onto the side of the receiver, and you could just like clip it onto your gear or whatever. Not sure how effective that would have been, but yeah. Poland did not adopt an AK-74 variant until late in the game. This variant was known as the WZ-88. But before we get into this variant, we need to take a look at its predecessor. The AKM-S WZ-80 was a rifle that featured a selector on the right and left side. Now here's the thing. Here's a really interesting thing here. The right side was the standard selector position, okay? The safe position was Z, and 0 was for fire. Now on these prototypes, the C and P letters were still present from a regular AKM-S underfolder receiver, so you could tell that they just repurposed a receiver for this project here. Now, the interesting thing is on the left side of this receiver, you had your fire selector. Okay, the C was an automatic position. The S was for 3-round burst, and P was for semi-automatic on this. Now, the right side selector was only a safety. The left side, just like the Tontal, was only for selecting your fire position. This version was very short-lived and did not make it past a few hundred units produced, and this variant did not make it past 1981. Now, obviously, Poland was interested in the AK-74, but after watching East Germany and Bulgaria kind of get screwed over by seeing their export sales potential evaporate over the 74s, Poland wasn't having any of that. So, like anyone trying to do their own thing and not trying to, just trying to stay out of a contract that was going to be really, really binding, they started to do their own thing. Here's when the Tontal project came up. Clearly, they were not going to play ball with Russia and decided to do their own thing, not wanting to be under a heavy, burdensome contract. This is one reason why the WZ-88 is so vastly different than the Russian AK-74. In another segment, we'll go over the cartridge development of the Warsaw Pact nations, but for now, let's just talk about the 88 rifles. The first rifles that came from the Polish Tontal program were known as the WZ-81 Tontals. Now keep that in mind, because the WZ-80 did not make it past 81. Well, this is the reason why, because they started to switch the caliber of choice, the 5.45x39, and this is where we're going with this. So technically the WZ-80 program did die, but it didn't. It just went to the next caliber. One thing that hindered the adoption of the 74 in Poland was the lack of room in some places, so the full stock variation of a 74 was just a little bit cumbersome. That, and they absolutely insisted on this grenade spigot, and might have overlooked it, but I want to make sure that I do remind you guys, if you looked at the AKM-S WZ-80, it's just an underfolding AK in 7.62x39 caliber that is essentially a Tontal, but it's a regular AKM, okay? So it's like if the Tontal and an AKM made a baby, this is what it would look like. Anywho, so much of the infrastructure of the Polish military revolved around their standard KBK rifles, which is the AKM. It just kind of made it kind of a big deal to adopt a grenade-spigoted AK-74 with a full stock. So, yeah. The push-button spring finally does make a comeback eventually on this program, because the new style rifle does not have the shutoff valve that the previous KBKG, that was the Type 3 that had milled receiver that was specifically designed for grenade launching. As a result, the top cover would fly off. Yet again, here we are at this problem here. To prevent this, they brought back the spring-loaded push-button lock on the top cover. The grenades on this variant could also use regular ammo to launch their grenades. This prevented accidents that came as a result of using ball ammo in the older style grenades. Now, the older style rifles did have a special magazine that could only accept blanks, but here's the catch. Those rifles were regular Type 3 AK-47s. So imagine your surprise. You pop a grenade on there and you forget to use your blank ammo magazine. Or you don't even clear the rifle. And anyway, accidents happen. And I'm sure that they were grand when they did happen. The muzzle device was similar to that of a 74 for the exception that it doubled as a grenade spigot. The barrel actually protrudes into the break a little bit, and you can even still clip on a bayonet with this contraption on there. The front sight block has the bayonet lug on it. The gas block in this variant had an extended portion, also, that kicked out from the base of the gas block, and this allowed you to mount on a clip-on bipod. The upper and lower handguard, as well as the gas tube, were retained by this simple one-piece retainer design that was in place of the standard lower handguard retainer. Now, there was not a lock for the gas tube on the rear sight block. The rear sight block is a completely different design here. Also, the use of the left fire selector was retained from the WZ-80. So, the actual paddle on the left side was modified for use in the Tontal. And the Tontal selector positions are C for automatic, P for semi-automatic, and S for 3-round burst. So, basically, if you're wanting to do like a copy of this rifle as an AKM variant, it wouldn't be correct because the selector positions are different. Everything's different about this thing, the selector positions and everything. So, anyway, the right side functioned only as a safety, like on the WZ-80. So, selector markings are Z for safe and O for fire, or 0 for fire. And the C and P are gone. These are specifically designed receivers for this rifle. And believe it or not, there are Tontals out there with a fixed stock, but not many, but they do exist. Now, before I get much further here, I want to express that early WZ-81 the Tontal project, early rifles did have an AKM magwell. So I think some of the confusion as to Tontal mags and everything don't switch over kind of comes from that, but it's not necessarily true. So anyway, the finish on these rifles was a luxurious black satin paint finish. Okay, that was a lie. It's just spray paint, pretty much. The barrel was 17 inches long and was cold hammer forged and chrome lined. By the time the WZ-88 was officially adopted into service in 1991, it was what we all know today as the Tontal. In 1992, the Onyx came out. This was essentially a short barrel Tontal. Didn't really have too many distinguishing features besides that. Its barrel was cut off to 8.14 inches, and this variant was just as short-lived as the Tontal. And after NATO came along and the 5.45x39 ammo dropped out of existence in Poland, they were put on the shelves and retired from service. The Warsaw Pact is out. The NATO alliance is now in. So what is to happen with the Kalashnikov in Poland? Well, this doesn't end the Kalashnikov saga in Poland, surprisingly enough. The WZ-91 was started, they started to play with this, kind of like the East Germans were playing with the Vigor design. It was a 5.56 Tontal, essentially. So just kind of keep that in mind here. It was a predecessor, obviously, to the WZ-96, which adopted in 97, we all know as the barrel. The barrel has multiple variants, so we're just going to kind of touch on the more mainstream variants. Kind of like the Tontal, it's just kind of like an ever-evolving saga with the barrel over the years. So anyway, the foregrips, gas block, rear sight block, and front sight all of them are very similar to the Tonto, so you can see the inspiration where this rifle came from in the barrel. The rear sight block does have slots in it to accept the installation of a top rail for optics to mount to. Also, they had a clip-on rail that would attach just to the rear sight block, but we'll go over that in a minute. The left side selector has an upgraded design that allows more positive movement of the fire selections. The magazine catch is an improved style. The rear trunnion is retained by 3 rivets in this case, and not by the standard 2 that had previously been on the Tonto and the AKM versions. There's also a right side folding stock installed. This can be swapped out with the standard stock from the Barrel Commando, which we'll talk about in a second. Let's not forget, there is a smaller version of this, just as the Tonto had. It's basically a better version of the Onyx. It's essentially a Commando with this short stock, or short barrel. The barrel on this was, well, this thing was called a mini barrel for obvious reasons. Really thinking outside the box here for the names. Barrel was 9.3 inches, and obviously it brings back some of the flair of the Onyx. The last version of the Polish AK is the Barrel Commando. The Commando has a barrel that is 14.76 inches long and has a collapsible M4 style stock. Square tube, not round tube though. Actually looks pretty slick. This makes the rifle a bit easier to use with body armor and is not as long as the WZ-96. The rear sight block on the barrel allows not only for the use of an over-the-top cover rail, it allows for the use of a rail mounted over the rear sight block. And there are over 4 variations of each of these things. We're not going to get into too much of the specifics about that, but there are over 4 variations of that, so just keep that in mind. In conclusion, I think the Polish Kalashnikov is one of the more interesting stories about the Kalashnikov. It shows the length the nation will go to incorporate one system into multiple roles as a way to save money, and not only that, making their soldiers more flexible on the battlefield. There were variants I was not able to cover here, obviously, because, there's just not enough time in the day, and this isn't to mention the civilian models, which I intentionally left out of this. And the journey of this nation is still present even today in its political climate. You hear a lot about the nation of Poland in the news, and it's just an ever-evolving situation with them. The journey of this nation is still present even today in the events that have taken place in Poland. Will a Kalashnikov have a future role in the Polish military, or will they eventually go their own way as they demonstrated in the use of the WZ-96 over the years? And by that I mean the Tonto program, which seems to be very much alive and well today. I hope you enjoyed this brief history. I will continue the series in the coming weeks. If you have a variant or collection you would like to have shared in an upcoming segment, please email me, Zeke@ZekeShoots.com. Also, consider helping the channel out by donating on Patreon. That would be www.patreon.com/Zeke Shoots. Any donation you make goes right back into the channel. Thank you guys for watching. Leave your thoughts below. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more of the Zeke Shoots Show.
Dum, 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 diddle dum dum, diddle dum dum, diddle dum dum. There was a turtle by the name of Bert, and the turtle was very alert. When danger threatened him, he never got hurt. He knew just what to do. He ducked and cover, ducked and cover.
He did what we all must learn to do. You
and you
and you and you.
duck and cover.
Be sure and remember what Bert the Turtle just did, friends, because every one of us must remember to do the same thing. That's what this film is all about. Duck and cover. This is an official civil defense film produced in cooperation with the Federal Civil Defense Administration and in consultation with the Safety Commission of the National Education Association. Produced by Archer Productions, Incorporated. Hey, Bert, come on out and meet all these nice people, please. Oh, all right. We really can't blame you. You see, Bert is a very, very careful fellow. When there's danger, this is the way he keeps from being hurt. Sometimes it even saves his life. That's why these children are practicing to duck and cover just as you do in your school. We all know the atomic bomb is very dangerous. Since it may be used against us, we must get ready for it, just as we are ready for many other dangers that are around us all the time. Fire is a danger. It can burn whole buildings if someone is careless. But we are ready for fires. We have a fine fire department to put out the fire, and you have fire drills in your school so you know what to do. Automobiles can be dangerous, too. They sometimes cause bad accidents, but we are ready. We have safety rules that car drivers and people who are walking must obey. Now, we must be ready for a new danger, the atomic bomb. First, you have to know what happens when an atomic bomb explodes. You will know when it comes. We hope it never comes, but we must get ready. It looks something like this. There is a bright flash, brighter than the sun, brighter than anything you've ever seen. If you were not ready and did not know what to do, it could hurt you in different ways. It could knock you down hard or throw you against a tree or a wall. It is such a big explosion, it can smash in buildings and knock signboards over and break windows all over town. But if you duck and cover, like Bert, you will be much safer. You know how bad sunburn can feel. The atomic bomb flash could burn you worse than a terrible sunburn, especially where you're not covered. Now, you and I don't have shells to crawl into like Bert the turtle, so we have to cover up in our own way. First, you duck, and then you cover. And very tightly, you cover the back of your neck and your face. Duck and cover underneath a table or desk or anything else close by. In Betty's school, they are talking about the atomic bomb, too. Betty is asking her teacher, how can we tell when the atomic bomb may explode? And her teacher is explaining that there are two kinds of attack, with warning and without any warning. We think that most of the time we will be warned before the bomb explodes, so there will be time for us to get into our homes, schools, or some other safe place. Our civil defense workers and our men in uniform will do everything they can to warn us before enemy planes can bring a bomb near us. You may be in your schoolyard playing when the signal comes. That signal means to stop whatever you are doing and get to the nearest safe place fast. Always remember, the flash of an atomic bomb can come at any time, no matter where you may be. You might be out playing at home when the warning comes. Then be sure to get into the house fast, where your parents have fixed a safe place for you to go. If you are not close to home when you hear the warning, go to the nearest safe cover. Know where you are to go, or ask an older person to help you. You know the places marked with the S sign? They're safe places to go when you hear the alarm. If there is a warning, you will hear it before the bomb explodes. But sometimes, and this is very, very important, sometimes the bomb might explode without any warning. Then the first thing we would know about it would be the flash. And that means duck and cover fast, wherever you are. There's no time to look around or wait. Be like Bert. When there is a flash, duck and cover, and do it fast. Here are some older boys showing what to do if the flash comes when you are not in the classroom. This is what to do if you should be in a corridor. You duck and cover tight against the wall this way. Remember to keep your face and the back of your neck covered tightly. Try to fall away from windows or doors with glass in them. Then, if the glass breaks and flies through the air, it won't cut you. You might be eating your lunch when the flash comes. Duck and cover under the table. Then, if the explosion makes anything in the room fall down, it can't fall on you. Getting ready means we will all have to be able to take care of ourselves. The bomb might explode when there are no grown-ups near. Paul and Patty know this, and they're always ready to take care of themselves. Here they are on their way to school on a beautiful spring day. But no matter where they go or what they do, they always try to remember what to do if the atom bomb explodes right then. It's a bomb. Duck and cover. Paul and Patty know what to do. Paul covered the back of his head so that he wouldn't be burned, and Patty covered herself with the coat she was carrying. They knew how to duck and cover. They acted right away when the flash came. If they had been at this doorway when the bomb flashed, Paul and Patty would have ducked and covered this way, like this girl. Heavy doorways are a good place to duck and cover. She will be safer, too. Here's Tony going to his Cub Scout meeting. Tony knows the bomb can explode any time of the year, day or night. He is ready for it. Duck and cover. Atta boy, Tony. That flash means act fast. Tony knows that it helps to get to any kind of cover. This wall was close by, so that's where he ducked and covered. Tony knew what to do. Notice how he keeps from moving or from getting up and running? He stays down until he is sure the danger is over. The man helping Tony is a civil defense worker. His job is to help protect us when there is danger of the atomic bomb. We must obey the civil defense worker. We must know how to duck and cover in the school bus or in any other bus or streetcar. Duck and cover. Don't wait. Duck away from the windows fast. The glass may break and fly through the air and cut you. Sundays, holidays, vacation time, we must be ready every day, all the time, to do the right thing if the atomic bomb explodes. Duck and cover. This family knows what to do, just as your own family should. They know that even a thin cloth helps protect them. Even a newspaper can save you from a bad burn. But the most important thing of all is to duck and cover yourself, especially where your clothes do not cover you. No matter where we live, in the city or the country, we must be ready all the time for the atomic bomb. Duck and cover. That's the first thing to do, duck and cover. The next important thing to do after that is to stay covered until the danger is over. Yes, we must all get ready now so we know how to save ourselves if the atomic bomb ever explodes near us. If you do not know just what to do, ask your teacher when this film is over. Discuss what you could do in different places if a bomb explodes. Older people will help us as they always do, but there might not be any grown-ups around when the bomb explodes. Then, you're on your own.
Remember what to do, friends. Now tell me right out loud. What are you supposed to do when you see the flash?
Duck and cover. Duck and cover. Duck and cover.
All right, guys, did we learn anything? Oh, buddy. No, we didn't learn anything. But what we did learn was I work with the government. I am here to help. Oh, buddy. Boy, howdy. Look at that. I came across that video. I was like, I have got to show these guys. This is priceless. I got to show these guys. No, I like how in that video